Welcome, everyone, to the Boiling Point Podcast, and making his triumphant return to the Boiling Point Podcast is my special guest for this episode, Wise Joe.
Hello.
Wise Joe, welcome back to the Boiling Point Podcast.
Hello.
My brother. This is episode 88. We're going to be discussing trans women in women's sports. We're going to talk about how men who transition to women are... have an advantage over them, and as you'll be able to tell, we're going to be using swimming stats, and then we're going to be talking about a few other cases at the end, but we're going to be focusing mainly on swimming and Leah Thomas, the one who was making all kinds of controversy in the NCAA the past year or two. So we're going to be talking about stats, and we're going to be showing you how and why men do have an advantage. And the Times, wait till we get to the Times. The Times really is where the story gets told here. So make sure you please leave us comments, like this episode. Please share it out. We need people to share out the episodes. Marcus Frederiksen does the music. Make sure you check him out at reverbnation.com/Marcus Frederiksen and visit our storefront where you can get yourself a nice Boiling Point Podcast t-shirt. We just added a bunch of new stuff, so check that out. Bonfire.com/the Boiling Point or /store/the Boiling Point Podcast, all in lowercase. Wise Joe's shirt is actually on the way.
Yeah, I'm gonna tie dye it.
Yeah, he's getting a white one. He's gonna hand tie dye it. I actually have a made tie dye shirt coming also, so we're gonna see what some of the new products look like. I also have a hat coming as well, so make sure you check out the storefront, share all that out. All right, so Leah Thomas. Leah Thomas is the man who is transitioning to a woman in the world of swimming, if you didn't know who she was.
Yeah, no, you're going to tell me about this like I don't know who you're talking about.
Well, actually, I'm going to be telling them, but if you know, then I don't need to talk more. Then I'll talk more to the people and less to you. So, he was ranked 462 as a male. Then he became ranked number 1 in a female. Oh, and I'm sorry, I had the stats wrong. We're not going to be using the 2018 stats, I don't think. Oh, yeah, no, actually we are, because that's when Leah Thomas was actually still competing as a woman in 2018. So, yeah, we are. We're going to be using the 2018 stats, and I'll tell you the website that we'll be using. Leah Thomas began transitioning in May of 2019. In December of 2021, 10 parents of UPenn swimmers wrote a letter to the NCAA, the Ivy League, and the university officials demanding the NCAA change their rules that allow someone like Leah Thomas to compete against their daughters. What do you think about that, Wise Joe, about the NCAA even having rules that allow Leah Thomas to transition and compete? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that the rules were just they were never fixed for a situation like that. That subject had never been brought up. The NCAA, I'm sure, their rule was if you're a woman, you can play women's sports. And all of a sudden in society, you could just call yourself whatever you wanted and be that. So when you called yourself a woman, you were allowed to compete in women's sports. But that raises the question, you're a man.
They do have certain rules, as far as the transition goes. You have to actually, to compete against the women, he had to fully compete his transition. He took a whole year off, including eligibility. 2019, the year he or she, we're going to be calling him Leah Thomas he throughout this, but whatever you would like to call him, feel free. He began transitioning in 2019. He took that whole swimming year off. He did not compete at all in 2019.
Okay.
Terms of the drug levels, he wasn't competing until. See how confused I am already. He wasn't testing for any of the things that they test for women though.
Like testosterone.
So, he actually had a dip in testosterone, and he had a dip in times. But even the dip in times, you're going to see his times are still well above the women's. Okay, so now let's go back to the timeline here. Leah Thomas transitioned in 2019. December of 2021, parents write letters. In January 23rd, 2022, the Washington Examiner releases a story with an anonymous teammate of Leah Thomas, claiming that Leah Thomas is being biologically a man gives him an advantage over her and her teammates. I'm talking about the anonymous teammate of Leah Thomas here. And she is actually quoted the teammate, but just because Leah is biologically a man, Leah is just naturally better than many females in the 50 and the 100, or anything that Leah wasn't good at as a man. Yeah. Which, as I said, wait till we get to the times. Now, February 1st, the Washington Examiner releases from, I don't know if this was, or the Washington Examiner releases a UPenn statement that says that many of the athletes on the team support Leah Thomas. The statement was not signed by the team, and the spokesperson specifically said the word many, okay? Now, there's also rumors that some of the swimmers who were Leah Thomas's teammates were being suppressed, that they were not allowed to speak out, which is why all of these instances that I'm giving you about Leah Thomas's teammates speaking out are all anonymous. They had to remain anonymous or they would have been kicked off the team, or at least that's what the rumors. I was not able to find anybody that would confirm that or any story that would confirm that. But that was the rumor going around. Now, sometime during the UPenn statement, it was after January 10th but before February 1st. The story that I found this on doesn't have a timestamp or an accurate one. So I couldn't tell you exactly when but it was between January 10th and February 1st. Outkick then reports a story from anonymous teammate, whether it's the same one or a different one, I don't know, claiming that Leah Thomas was also then not trying or coasting during their matches once he was competing as a woman. So before we get to the collusion, though, I know I'm jumping all over the place here. There's a lot of information, and I'm just trying to make sure I don't overwhelm anybody. Now, we're going to look at the 2018 stats before we get to Leah Thomas's alleged collusion. And I got these stats from their 2018 stats, and they're from swimcloud.com. They keep track of all swim times, track times. They keep track of like all a huge amount of NCAA times across a wide variety of sports. So swimcloud.com, you can look up any of these stats for yourself, okay? Now, in the 100 meter, Rebecca Sengozi was the fastest woman. She had a time of 44.24, okay? And this is the 100 meter. The 44.24 ranks 1,304 out of 2,997 men. That's the fastest woman in the 100 meter. And she ranks outside the top 1,300 against the men. Okay? And only two women rank higher than last among the men in the 100 meter. Only two. Okay? And then the third place woman, her time does not qualify. She finished in third place. Gretchen Walsh, this is the 100 meter. She finished with a time of 46.05. And that is still 0.84 seconds slower than 2,997th. And that time was by last place was Thomas Shapancic. And he was still more than 0.8 faster than Gretchen Walsh, who was third place in women. Do you think that's going to be, like, if we looked it up, I don't have all the stats across all the sports, but do you think this is indicative of across, like, all sports here? That it was that.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably accurate.
I mean, that's pretty. I mean, in the 500 meter, Leah Thomas.
The track times are similar.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the same way with track times.
Yeah. We're gonna wait till we get to that in just a second here, because there's a study here. Actually, that might be on swimming too. Now that I think about it, but yes, I'm thinking track and swim times are going to be very comparable in terms of men and women. Like in terms of women not really ranking among the men. These are the times. I'm not trying to. And there's women out there who are saying, listen, we shouldn't be competing against men. Women should not compete against men. There's a reason we have different
there are two different
gender classes, right? Yeah. Why women only compete against women and men only compete against men. There are biological and scientific reasons for that.
Yeah, that's true. Testosterone.
That's
a big factor.
Yeah. Estrogen.
Dude, I'm pretty sure that they get tested in women's sports for testosterone. Like, you can't be, like, beefing up on testosterone. That gives you an advantage. Men make it naturally.
Yeah, well, and even men get tested for it. They can only still
Yeah, you can only have
it
a
within
certain
range.
amount of testosterone. It gives you an advantage.
Exactly. Now, in the 500 meter swimming, Leah Thomas, believe it or not, in 2018 had the fastest time in the 500 meter among the women. Okay? Leah Thomas's time was 4 minutes 33.24 seconds. And even Leah Thomas's time ranks 2,364. Leah Thomas has the fastest female time in 2018 for the 500 meter. And even Leah Thomas's time ranks 2,364.
Out of all the men.
Out of all the men. Only 3 women in the 500 meter rank above last. That's 3. So 2
top 3
in the 100 meter, and the top 3 women of the 500 meter had times that ranked among the top 3,000 men. All right, now this is where it gets interesting here, but you're going to see that it still doesn't matter. It seems like the longer the distances go, the more evenly the gap between men and women become distributed. Now, that's not to say that it's evenly by any means. Okay, but based on what I'm seeing here, in the 100 meter, there were 2 women that had times that would qualify among the men. In the 500 meter, 3 women, and in the 1,000 meter, there were 91 women that ranked higher than last among the men. Okay, I mean that's a substantial increase there, 91.
Yeah, it is.
The problem with that is, and this is where the problem is, the top women's time of those 91 women, 761st.
Still not even in the top
remotely
100.
close. No, still not even the top 500. Still not even the top 750. So you're talking. I mean, like I said, the 1,000 meters seems more women can qualify. Like the longer the distance, it seems like more women can qualify among the men. But not still. That's not anywhere near the top.
Time.
No, that's still not anywhere near the top.
Time.
Yeah, it's still not anywhere near the top.
That's still no competition for the top 100.
They wouldn't even make it to the semifinals. No, they wouldn't even.
No, they wouldn't be able. They wouldn't even be
able to qualify.
Yeah, they wouldn't qualify to compete.
So. And I'm going to keep the tables that I have up showing you the times on the screen for you for another minute or so you can actually see them if you're watching the episode. So, I mean, those are the times. You're talking about 2 women in the 100 meter, 3 women in the 500, and 91 in the 1,000, but even then the top one.
That's a substantial increase.
Yeah, but still only 761st.
I'd like to know what the stats about that are.
Like what, the further you go up,
the
like
further
to
you go up,
5,000 to 10,000?
What if we get to 5,000 meters?
I looked at those.
I bet some of those women are beating the dudes.
No, I mean they're still ranking in like the amount of women that would make it in the top 3,000 increase. But
but it would be
none
closer
of them
to the time.
No, none of them still rank in the top 100. Even for the 5,000, and the events that are above the 1,000 meter. I didn't write down the stats in my outline, but I did look them over. No, not even in the top 100.
Okay.
I don't remember what the top one is in those, but not the top 100. That was what I was looking for.
Well,
I was like, in any of these events, do the women break the top 100?
If you're a man who's competing against women.
Yes, if you're a man who's competing against women, then you can have the fastest time.
You can have the fastest time and only have the 2,000 spot.
Yeah.
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 He didn't even qualify. He wouldn't even have qualified for men's swim.
No, he wouldn't have qualified at all. No.
But in the women, number 1.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah, that's the stat. That's the stat.
That's the
stat.
A
non-qualifying male swimmer qualifies first and wins in the women's swim meet.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a problem.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
If you don't see why,
if you don't understand based off of that why is a problem, then you are like.
Then you're choosing now.
Yeah, get woke, go broke. You might as well just sell all your shit.
Yeah, because if you're not seeing it at this point, then you're choosing not to see it.
Yeah, you're choosing to ignore the facts.
Yeah, because these are facts. These are stats. You can look them up, and I guarantee you, I will personally guarantee that you can look up any year for the last 100 years of stats, and the women's times aren't going to rank among the top men's. Okay, they're just not. Now, not in every sport. There are some sports where men and women competing are much more evenly, but those usually aren't physical.
Yeah, that's
sports.
Different.
You know what I mean? Those aren't like running, swimming, weightlifting.
Do you know there's a reason that there's a women's basketball league and a men's basketball league?
There is.
Yeah, because men destroy women in basketball, generally. Not that women can't compete with men in basketball. They can.
not that some women, not that some women,
some women do. Some
couldn't
women
show
could.
in, yeah.
Yeah, they could show in, show up, and show out. But in general, you take a team of female basketball players and put them against a team of male basketball players, they're gonna lose.
And now, personally, if a woman wanted to compete against a man, I wouldn't have a problem with her doing that. If she wanted to make that decision, I want to compete against men.
Against men. Okay.
Fine. I would not have a problem with that.
But when it's the other way around.
Yeah, when it's the other way around, because men do possess
men have testosterone and they make it.
Yeah, and also men who transition to women, they take estrogen. Okay, so you're talking about...
and they're boosting their estrogen levels
and
too.
You know what estrogen does? Estrogen makes your bone density stronger. So you're taking a man with maybe 180 pounds of muscle mass on their body and giving them estrogen.
Yeah,
making their bone density.
Yeah, their bone density is stronger. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So you're actually making them, in terms of physical sports, like contact sports, then you're making it dangerous.
Yeah.
Extremely dangerous. And we're not going to cover the UFC, the trans woman UFC fighter.
It's already been talked about a lot.
That, and I got so much information here, we didn't want to go forever, so we may discuss that, but in a more general sense. We may be putting together a UFC episode in the future, so look for that in the next couple weeks. Let's talk about, real quick, the colluding now that Leah Thomas may have also done. Leah Thomas is not just a man competing against women, he's also potentially a cheater.
Yeah.
Leah Thomas is being accused by his teammates of coasting or not trying to win races.
So that other women could win.
Or in the case in the case of January 8th of I believe it was 2021. Yes, 2021. January 8th. The January 8th meet, Leah Thomas was accused by his teammates of coasting during the 100-meter freestyle, in which a transgender female to male was competing. Okay? And Leah Thomas that's the alleged thing, that Leah Thomas let Isaac Hennig win that meet, the 100-meter.
Isaac Hennig is a person who was
who is a female transitioning to male. Now now let's talk about this for just a second, because females who are transitioning to male take testosterone.
Yeah.
And she wanted to compete against the men. She actually wanted to compete against the men, even before her transition. Like when she was transitioning and stuff, she did not. Isaac Hennig did not, as far as I know, did not take a year off from it during transitioning. Okay. Leah Thomas did take a year off while transitioning. Female to male Isaac Hennig did not take the year off. Okay. Now, this is the reason that Leah Thomas is being accused of it, is because during that event, his time on the 100-meter freestyle was 52.84. Talking about Leah Thomas, was 52.84 for the 100-meter. Okay, 4 months prior to that, in November, his time was 49.42. That's more than 3 seconds.
That's a lot
difference. And in swimming,
that's a big difference.
That's huge. Yeah, that's huge in swimming. I mean, you're talking about usually the top couple of positions being decided by less than 10 seconds.
Fractions of a second.
Yeah, and you're talking about 3 seconds here. That's a huge drop off. That's not a natural drop off.
No.
3 seconds is not a natural drop off of what a swimmer's time is. Swimmers aren't that inconsistent. They're consistent with their times. They could vary within maybe a few seconds. I mean, not even a few seconds, usually. Like 3 seconds is a substantial. Yeah.
Yeah, a few hundredths of a second.
Yeah, a few hundredths of a second, tenths of a second. But usually not 3 seconds. 3 seconds is a big difference.
Yeah, that's a big jump.
So that's also in the 200 meter of the same event. And I got some screenshots here to show you of the story and stuff. On the same day, fans also said the same thing during the 500 meter. And that was an event that Leah Thomas only won by 1 second. And now also during the same event, the January 8th event, So the same event, UPenn swimmers were told to cover their logos while at this event. Okay? They were told to do so because there was a lot of controversy because of Leah Thomas's transition and competing on the UPenn team. So the coaches advised all their swimmers to cover their logos while they were in town, so they would not be recognized. Leah Thomas was the only member of the swim team to not do this. Leah Thomas was walking around town with his teammates wearing UPenn stuff while his teammates all were wearing UPenn stuff with the logos taped over or whatever. So Leah Thomas did not do this, and that's when you're on a team like that, when a team agrees to do something like that, all the team does it. When one person doesn't, especially the person who is the result of the controversy in the first place, that's showing disrespect to your teammates.
Yeah.
And that's
you don't do that to your team.
Yeah, that's terrible. So I mean, and his own teammates, Leah Thomas's own teammates, accusing him of coasting. And swimmers know when you're teammates with someone, you know whether or not someone's trying to win, or if they're struggling, or if they're having an off day. Like your teammates can see. Yeah, and they did not
practice every day.
Yeah, they did not accuse
every time that you swim, they see you.
Yeah, and they did not accuse Leah Thomas of having a bad day or having an off day. They accused him of coasting, of intentionally not trying hard.
Not trying hard enough.
Yes. And now this event came out after Leah Thomas had already dominated one of the swim meets. Do you think and isn't that weird how all of a sudden now Leah Thomas is struggling, and then everybody could say, "See, look, he doesn't have an advantage. Look, he's losing now. You see?"
Yeah, that's because he's doing it intentionally.
Exactly. I mean, that's something that maybe a lot of people didn't think about when it happened. The passerby with, reading the headline, "Oh, Leah Thomas lose." Oh, well, then maybe there isn't really a difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all about the headlines, but it's not, as we've just given you stats and information to. That's not the case. They have an advantage, a physical advantage.
Yeah, maybe the thing is they have an initial advantage while still retaining some of their natural testosterone, but then after being pumped with so much estrogen, canceling out their testosterone production, maybe after being a woman for a certain amount of time, they don't. You lose your muscle mass, you lose your testosterone. I mean, you lose your dick, your nuts. They create your testosterone, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Once you don't have those making the testosterone anymore, maybe after being on all that estrogen for so long, that they don't have an advantage. But the point is that men want to transition and then immediately go compete and then get gold medals.
But even though, listen,
they want to go right away.
Leah Thomas's times did dip after he began the transition, in swim times. But only briefly. That's what they didn't tell you when they said, "Oh, his times dipped. Look, he's slower now." Yeah, he was for half the season. And then as soon as he was done with the transition, and he was done taking all the different hormones and stuff to transition, his body evened back out, and he was back to almost personal best by the end of that season.
Jeez.
That's the other thing, is that you
Yeah, so I'm probably trying to play devil's advocate.
Yeah, but it still doesn't matter. Even if there's a dip in times because of the estrogen and because of the drugs, they are weaker. Okay, even when he got it, they were comparable to before he transitioned to his personal best. They didn't beat his personal best, but they were comparable. They were close. Okay, so you're still talking about a man who built his frame and built his body and had testosterone and built all this muscle, then transitioning to a woman who then takes estrogen, who then makes the bone density stronger, then it overall makes you stronger. So, which is why he eventually brought his times almost back up to where they were. There's an initial dip because of the drugs, and then
it comes back.
Most of it comes back. Not all of it, but most of it. And as we've discussed in times, just in terms of women against men, a man who ranks in not even the top 1,500 can go to women's swimming and win.
Yeah.
So that's what the problem is there.
Seems to be that way.
Yeah.
Whenever a man transitions to a woman and goes to women's sports, they win gold medals.
Yeah, let's give some other examples quick here before we get ready to wrap it up. CeCe Telfer, Um, a biological male competed in the 2019 Women's Track and Field Championship.
There you go, track and field.
In 2017, he wasn't in the top 300. And that was the last year he competed as a male. That was the last year he competed as a male. He wasn't even in the top 300. And then in 2019, Women's Track and Field Champion.
Number one.
Number one. Not even in the top 300.
Number one.
Number one. Not just number one, but champion, which means that he was number one consistently enough throughout the season.
Yeah, number one enough times that,
yeah,
constantly winning.
All right, and then we got Mary Gregory, weightlifting, a biological male. Dominated at a 2019 Raw Powerlifting Federation competition in Virginia where he broke 4 women's world records. The Masters World Squat, the Open World Bench, the Masters World Deadlift, and the Masters World Total. 4 records that he...
World records.
Yeah, world records. Okay.
Female world records.
Now, after that happened, there was a lot of outrage, including from Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan weighed in on that situation, and there was outrage from the female athletes of that competition.
I'm sure.
So, okay,
I'm sure that's outrageous.
Let's give dues where they're meant to be. Raw Powerlifting Federation did revoke his win after all. I mean, they should have never let it happen. But they at least revoked his win and the records, and then they also launched a transgender division.
There you go. That's the.
And isn't that
solution?
Wouldn't that be the simplest
wouldn't that be the
thing?
simplest solution?
Yeah.
Just make a whole new division.
Yep, exactly.
Boom.
If you want to compete, fine, but we're making a whole new division for you.
For people who want
to be
females. But then they have the question about what about females who transition to men?
Exactly.
And then men transition to females. Those two are separate.
And
then we'd have to have 2 separate categories.
No, I don't think so. I think if you want to be a transgender, you compete against all transgenders. That's my opinion.
Like you mean like the Special Olympics? It doesn't matter what kind of special you are, you're still competing against.
Well, that's not true either. That's not true either. In the Special Olympics, they're decided by, like for example, in context, in swimming, they're based on what your
like cognitive abilities.
What your physical abilities are. Like a lot of people with spinal cord problems are swimmers, so it's usually like they're separated by division. They're called like S7, S6, and that's all based on the amount on either where.
So then have a transgender like division, and then have it separated by class.
You could do that. I'm thinking just have a transgender division, and I don't care.
Well, it's going to be all inclusive.
Exactly, just include all transgender. I don't care if you're a male transitioning to a woman or a woman transitioning to a male. All transgenders compete against each other. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all right. That'd be interesting.
Now, also in 2019, Terry Miller and Andrea Yearwood, biological males, at a Connecticut high school event, finished first and second in indoor track. Terry Miller set an indoor record for the 55-meter dash. Following that state championships, where they finished first and second. Parents circulated a petition to bar biological men from women's sports. I don't know if they actually were successful. I tried to look up some information, and I could not find anything on that. So we'll take that with a grain of salt. I couldn't find confirmation on that one.
Well, it's about high school, so.
Rachel McKinnon, a biological male, set the world record in women's sprint world championship in the fall of 2019. Would not have qualified for the men's race with her time. With his world
time.
record time
For women.
For women, would not have qualified for men. How about that?
Sprint race.
The women's world record would not have qualified
for a men's race. So it's like
his world
clearly
record.
A problem.
I have the times here, so I wanted to pause for a second. But world record, he broke the women's world record with 11.649 seconds. Right, the top qualifying time for men, 10.498 seconds. Almost 1.1 seconds faster than the women's world record.
That's mixed up.
That's That's again in track and field.
Yeah, that's
1
big.
and 1/10 seconds.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's huge.
Tenths, like their difference is a tenth of a second. It's tenths of a second is what separate the winners.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. This is not
I'd like
sprinting.
to
This
know-
was biking. I'm sorry. This is cycling.
I would like
sprint.
to know
Sprint. I apologize for that. It's sprint cycling. Yeah,
Okay.
and also
I would like to know what the men's world record is,
I don't have that. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't look that up.
or what the second place. Like whenever he set that record for the women's sprint cycling,
yeah.
what the second place was.
Yeah, I didn't even think to get
Because
that one either.
that could have been more.
can
That
tell
could have
you-
been about a second like.
I can
difference.
tell you that while women who do this event oftentimes make it their full-time job, Rachel McKinnon does not. Rachel McKinnon only does it part-time. Rachel McKinnon has a full-time job and cycles part-time, and shattered the women's world record with a part-time
As a part-time biker.
As a part-time biker. Yep. All right, now this is an interesting part here. I do have an example of a female, Mac Beggs, biological female, transitioning to male, wants to compete against men, but was denied by the Texas University Interscholastic League.
Wrong state.
Mac Beggs takes testosterone to transition. That's illegal for any other competitor to take, male competitor.
Yeah.
Now, and she was competing against other females. They wouldn't let her. So, and this was where the state made a mistake, actually, in my opinion, because they should have let her, because she dominated for 2 years against women. This is a woman who is transitioning to man, who dominated the Texas State Wrestling Championship for 2 years against other women. In the 2018 state tournament, Mac Beggs won 36 straight matches because she was taking testosterone to transition, and none of the other females were doing that.
Yeah.
36 straight matches. And if there's a wrestler, if you're a wrestler, leave us a comment on how hard it is to win 36 straight matches, please. If you have ever been, if we have a wrestler watching this episode, let us know how difficult it in fact is to win 36 straight matches. All right.
36 pins.
Yeah. All right. Now the last thing we're going to come up with here, and this maybe even holds the most weight out of all the stuff that I've already told you. This may have hold the most weight. And this is the final topic, and then we're going to discuss a little bit before we wrap it up. boysversuswomen.com. Go check this out. They ran a study taking high school male students' track times, and they compared them to women Olympians.
Okay.
In the 100 meter, the 200 meter, the 400 meter, and the 800 meter. In all four of those events, the male high school students take every top spot against female Olympians in the same event. And I don't mean like the women. No, like the top. Like if they took 8 men's times and 8 women's times, all the top 8 spots, all men. Not the women didn't get any of the, like the top spot, like the top 3 or no. I mean the top spots.
Like
all of the top spots went to the men,
spots.
and then all of the women finished in order underneath them.
Yeah.
It looked like the results of 2 different races. That's what it looked like, with all the men at the top of the bracket and all the women at the bottom of the bracket.
Yeah.
That's high school. That's high, and this
High
is a
school
study.
to Olympians.
This is a
Although
study.
some high schoolers are competing in the Olympics these days.
Well, usually high school students do compete in the Olympics. You can compete as a high school student. You can compete as little as I believe 13. I believe is what it is.
Wow.
At least that's for gymnastics and figure skating. I'm not sure if it varies by sport. Something I'll make sure I include in the Olympic episode that we're putting together. I'll make sure I put what the age restrictions are. We'll talk about that in that episode as well. But yeah, you're talking about high school male students against Olympians, female Olympians. We're talking about female Olympians here, and they don't have any of the top spots. So,
Jeez.
in what way How is anybody seeing this as okay? You don't understand it either, right?
Well, no, I don't understand how you could see it as okay. Like, how are you gonna let a female compete against, or the man compete against the females?
Yeah.
Like, whether they call themselves a female or not, they're crushing it.
Yeah. We're talking about biology and science.
Yeah.
And the reason
everybody seems to have forgotten that you're born a certain way.
The party of science seems to have forgotten.
The party of science seems to have forgotten about science. I think people overlook the fact that transgenderism is a mental illness. Like, that's what's classified by the world of psychology. That's a mental illness, whether you want to believe that you're a man or a female or not. Like, that's all bare down minimum. That's what it is.
Gender dysphoria.
Gender dysphoria it's a mental illness, and if you went to the hospital, they shouldn't be treating you with transition. They should be treating you with fucking antipsychotics because you're not.
And therapy.
Yeah, and therapy because you're not what you think you are.
Yeah.
It's
now let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, not that it's not okay. Not that it's not okay. Like, if that's what people want to do, okay. But now when it comes down to it,
I don't think
they should be competing against each other.
Yeah, I don't think anybody should transition. I think it's a bad idea.
The suicide stats
yeah. Just based on the suicide stats, I don't think anybody should. I think it's bad. I don't think anybody should actually do that. But when we're also talking about competing, so when it comes to competing, not acceptable. Men should not be competing against women. That's unacceptable.
Hands down,
if you were born a man, you don't get to compete against women. That's it.
Yeah, as simple as that.
Yeah.
But now, like you said,
if you want to transition, then go ahead. It's a free country.
Yeah, it's a free country. Everybody can do what they please to do.
But I definitely don't
infringe upon what I want to do, and I'm not going to tell you what to do.
Yes, and you also
I don't think it's a great plan, but also not my place to say. Like, you do whatever you want to do. Have fun.
Yes, and freedom of speech means I can call you a him. I can go out there and call a woman a him if I so choose.
No,
that's what freedom of speech is. This is not Canada, where Canada actually will fine you and imprison you if you misgender somebody, even by accident.
Yeah.
So let's keep our free speech and let's keep men out of women's sports. And I wanted something else that I forgot to mention at the top of this episode. I wanted everybody to know that I did ask 6 different females
I wanted to say
be
that
on
too.
to be on this show with me. Okay, I asked 6 different women to be on this episode with me. Every single one of them agree with where I am on it. They are on my side that men should not be competing against women. All of them are on my side. None of them wanted to come on and talk about it. What does that say?
They're afraid of the politic climate.
Yeah, they're afraid of being, getting hate speech and getting hated on by whoever. But isn't that terrible that women
that women are afraid to talk against something that they believe because they're being dominated on in sports.
Yeah, even the story that I told you, the teammates of Leah Thomas still had to speak anonymously. They still wouldn't give their names even though they were against it. They spoke anonymously. Women are afraid to speak out against this. That's why I decided to go ahead and do this episode. I almost decided not to do it because I didn't have a woman on with me. And I was like, I really want a woman to join me on this episode. We need to get a woman's point of view. Me sitting here saying it can only go so far. But when the 7 different women that I asked all declined, I was like, you know what? Maybe I just need to, because someone needs to be talking about this. And right now women are scared to. They're being regulated to third-class citizens. And that's no good. So make sure you check out. I have the links available in the description of all the stats of the stories that I got this from. There's also an opinion piece. Check out the link. The article's by Abigail Schreier. It was in 2020. It's about transgender threatening women's sports. It's an opinion piece. Give that a read through. It's a very good read. And it's from a woman, which is good. There are some women speaking out, but a lot of them are afraid right now, and that's no good either. Which is why I decided to still do this episode, and why Joe decided to join me, because
it's not okay.
We want to. Someone has to say it, right?
Yeah, somebody has to say it.
More
it's
people.
Not okay.
We need more people coming out saying it.
Because, look, it's going to change down at the school level. That's where the difference is going to come from. And if it's not the parents and the teachers saying this is not okay, then it'll never change at the national level.
Even the Olympics have kicked it back to the individual sports now. Like, if it's up to the individual sports, if an individual sport allows transgender
Yeah,
swimming
and those
or
individual
running,
sports are then
they're allowed to do that in the Olympics.
Yeah, it's all about like the school level.
So the NCAA is actually where it's at. I mean, if you got a student in college, if you're in college, if you're in high school about to go to college, or if
you're a parent sending your kid to college.
Yeah, then make sure you look into that. Make sure you check the schools out and see which schools are allowing men to compete against.
If you're sending your daughters to school to compete as an athlete, make sure you're looking that shit up.
Yeah, and I mean honestly, even if you're sending your boys to college, maybe you don't want to send them to a place like that. That's probably indicative of other things within that university. So again, do your own research. You don't have to take our word for it. You don't have to believe anything I said here. Everything is available in the description. You can look up the stats yourself and decide for yourself. I don't see how you can decide that it's okay based on the evidence that I gave you. Scientific evidence, times of athletes. That's how we judge our athletes, is based on time.
Yep.
At least with most sports, swimming, track and field, that type of thing. It's all time based, and we just gave you the stats. Men dominate women.
Men dominate women's sports by time.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about that. So
let's not even say men. Testosterone dominates sports.
Yeah.
Testosterone.
As evidenced by the
female who transitioned into a man. Testosterone dominates
other
sports.
women. Yeah.
It's testosterone. It has nothing to do with being a man. It just happens. Happens that men make testosterone.
It's also a level playing field. You can't have when a woman can take testosterone and no other woman competing can.
Yeah, that's an issue.
Or when transgender, when women are transitioning to men. Or men are transitioning to women, they take drugs. They have drugs in their system that women aren't allowed to have in their system, and men aren't allowed to have in their system. So you're talking about you're violating two things when you transition, when you compete in sports. Like I said, separate category. If you want to do a separate category, fine. But I don't think if you're transitioning,
you should be competing at all.
Yeah, they either need their own category or not, or to just not be competing at all. If you want to compete, stay the sex you were and compete. Birth.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going to wrap it up. Make sure leave us a comment. Leave us a comment with your opinion. Let us know what you think about it. Are you okay with it, or are you not okay with it?
I don't want to hear about being a bigot.
If you are okay, if you are okay with it, I would love to hear why you are okay with it, based on the stats that I have given to you. I would love to hear somebody tell me why they are still for it even after watching this episode.
Oh, yeah,
so
I would love to hear that.
If you're still watching and you're still for it, please leave us a comment. We want to know why.
Yeah, let's hear it. If it's valid, I'll buy it.
Yeah, check out our storefronts. Get yourself a t-shirt. It helps support the podcast. Bonfire.com/store/The Boiling Point Podcast. We are on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and Parler. I am getting the YouTube channel updated now that our strike went away and I can upload again to YouTube. So I will be getting YouTube the rest of the way uploaded. Not all episodes are going to be available on YouTube, though. Everybody make sure if you keep checking out our Rumble station, that's where all of the episodes are available in their entirety are at. You can watch the episodes without signing up for Rumble. You just can't leave a like or leave a comment without signing up on Rumble, but you can still watch on Rumble even without signing up. So please give us a watch, give us a share. We need people to share the episodes. That's what we need most in order to continue to help us grow. Please share the episodes.
Yes, please share the episodes. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Xbox One, Xbox, Microsoft.
All right,
at Dr. Bombs.
At Dr. Bombs. Follow him on Dr. Bombs.
Follow me on your Xbox.
Yep, and we got some things coming up, so stay tuned for the next few weeks. For my special guest, Wise Joe, welcome back to the podcast. We'll hopefully be having him on more frequently. I am your host, JD, and that's the end. I'm not around, have you found? I'm always on you.